Jesus was not a Christian. He was a rebel who learned the secrets of the East to awaken the single eye within every human being. When Jesus says, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light," he is not speaking metaphorically. He is describing the physiological activation of the pineal gland. The kingdom of God is not a place in the sky. It is a state of neurobiology where the third eye opens and you finally see existence as it is. The church gave you the cross to worship, but Jesus wanted to give you the third eye to awaken. They preferred a dead savior over a living method of transformation. To be a Christ is not a title for one man. It is a potential for every human whose inner seed, the pineal gland, has sprouted into the light of consciousness. Jesus was a tantrika, a master of energy. His miracles were nothing but the signs of a fully activated pineal gland influencing the material world. You have been told to follow Jesus, but I tell you, do not follow him. Become a Christ. And the only door to that is the silence of your third eye. My beloved ones, seekers of the truth and friends on the path, I want to speak to you today about a man who has been murdered twice. You have heard the story of his first murder, a physical one, done in Jerusalem by the Jews on a wooden cross. They thought they had finished him, but they were ignorant. He survived. He resurrected. But then came the second murder, a much more efficient one, a much more clinical one. This second murder was committed in Rome, in the Vatican. There they murdered him with all the precautions. They built a palace over his grave. They dressed him in gold. They made him into a statue, and they called it Christianity. And Jesus has not been able to come out of that Vatican prison for 2000 years. Christianity has nothing to do with Christ. In fact, Christianity is anti-Christ, just as Buddhism is anti-Buddha. And Jainism is anti-Mahavir. Christ has something in him which cannot be organized. The very nature of his message is rebellion. And a rebellion cannot be organized. The moment you organize it, you kill it. Then the dead corpse remains. You can worship it, but you cannot be transformed by it. I want to talk to you about the real Jesus, not the Sunday school version. I want to talk about the Jesus who was a master of inner alchemy, who knew the secret of the single eye, what you today call the pineal gland, the third eye. The Vatican kept this from you because a man with an active third eye is a free man. He does not need a priest. He does not need a church. He becomes a light unto himself. If you feel a resonance with this search, I invite you to settle into your heart. If this journey feels like your own, perhaps you are one of the elect Jesus spoke of. If you wish to support this work and keep these teachings alive for other seekers, you can do so by using the join button or offering a super thanks. Your support allows us to continue reclaiming these last fires from the ocean of history. Jesus says something very mysterious in the Gospel of St. John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. These words have been repeated by parrots for centuries until they have become meaningless, trivial. But if you become a little alert, their potential is tremendous. What is this word? It is not a word from a dictionary. It is a vibration. It is the isness of existence. And then there is another saying, perhaps the most important one for your activation. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. This is the last technique. You have two eyes to see the world of duality, the world of male and female, of good and bad, of birth and death. These two eyes see the without, but Jesus is talking about the single eye that sees the within. When you close these two eyes, what happens to the energy which usually goes through them? Energy has to move. It cannot be static. If you close one outlet, it must find another. When both physical eyes are closed and your attention is turned inward, a conversion happens. That energy hits the third eye in you. The third eye is not a physical thing. It is the turning of energy back towards the source. This is the mustard seed. People often ask me, Osho, why do you talk about Jesus? You are not a Christian. I tell them, I am all for Christ, but not even a small part of me is for Christianity. If you want Christ, you have to go beyond Christianity. Christ is a rare synthesis. Ordinarily, a human being lives in agony. Krishna lives in ecstasy. Buddha has gone even further. He is neither in agony nor ecstasy. He is transcendence. But Jesus is the culmination of all. He is in agony on the cross as you are in your daily life, yet he is in ecstasy, a song, a dance, and in his innermost being, his transcendence. Jesus is the bridge. You can trust him because he is so like you and yet so unlike. He understands your language of pain, and he can lead you to the unknown peak. If you are enjoying this new way of seeing old truths, please take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt that flicker of light between your brows during a moment of deep silence? I would love to read your experiences. Now, let us look at the mustard seed. The disciples asked Jesus, "Tell us what the kingdom of heaven is like." And he said, "It is like a mustard seed, smaller than all seeds, but when it falls on the tilled earth, it produces a large tree and becomes shelter for all the birds of heaven." The mustard seed is the boundary of the visible world. It is the smallest thing you can see. Beyond it lies the invisible, the subtle. God is the seed, the universe is the tree. But the seed must die to become the tree. This is the secret of pineal activation. Your ego, the cell of the seed, must die so that the inner light can sprout. But you are afraid to die. You have been told to be individualistic, to fight, to doubt. Science grows through doubt, but religion grows through trust. When you trust, you close these two eyes and the energy starts moving backwards. That energy hits the third eye and suddenly a conversion happens. You become a son of God. The Vatican does not want you to know that the Word was made flesh in you, not just in Jesus. Jesus was just a representative of what you can become. He is the blooming tree. You are the mustard seed. He says, "I am the light that is above them all." Cleave a piece of wood and I am there. Lift up the stone and you will find me. He is talking about the isness, the consciousness that resides in the very marrow of existence. To activate this inner vision, you need tilled earth. That is the meaning of discipleship. A master is just a midwife. He helps you pass through a new birth. He doesn't give you anything you don't already have. He only takes away your too muchness, your ego. If you wish to delve deeper into these techniques, We have a collection of ebooks available in the link below. These are not just words, they are fires to burn your old identity so the new can be born. Many people think Jesus came to bring peace, but Jesus says, "Men possibly think that I have come to throw peace upon the world, and they do not know that I have come to throw divisions upon the earth. Fire, sword, war." This sounds paradoxical, but it is the truth of the path. You cannot have the peace of the graveyard. You need the peace that comes after the inner war. You are divided inside. One part of you wants to sleep, another wants to wake up. One part belongs to the mud, the other to the stars. Jesus brings the sword to cut you asunder, to separate the body from the consciousness. This inner friction is what creates the fire of transformation. If you have been living in the head, in the intellect, you are cold. You need the heat of life to reach the boiling point, 100 degrees, where the water of your being evaporates into the sky. This is the technique. Total awareness, total friction, total witnessing. In your house, there are 5 senses. Jesus says 3 shall be against 2 and 2 against 3. Your eyes usually dominate everything, using 80% of your energy. To activate the pineal, you must stop this exploitation. You must close the outward gates so the inner door can open. This is the last technique, to be a solitary, one who is content in his own aloneness. Only the solitary can see what the physical eye has not seen. My friends, if you feel this message is reaching your heart, show your appreciation by hitting that like button. It helps this rebel Jesus reach more people who are tired of the dead organized religion. I find you all drunk, as Jesus said. You are drunk with your desires, with your past, with your knowledge. You are like sheep who have been hypnotized to believe they are free. But the hypnosis is of your own making. You are both the magician and the sheep. Once you realize, I am the one who is keeping myself asleep, the dream starts to break. The activation of the third eye is nothing but the breaking of this hypnosis. It is to see the fact, not the projection. Jesus came to give you life abundant, but to receive it, you must be athirst. Are you thirsty? Or are you satisfied with the opium of the philosophers? I am here to provoke you, to shake you, to give you a jerk, so your needle of unconsciousness jumps out of the groove. This is my effort to lend you my eyes so that you can see the old territory in a totally new light. When you have new eyes, everything becomes new. Wait for my next verse, for the journey has just begun. We will dive deeper into the exact friction needed to boil the energy. You must reach a boiling point, a point where you are so fed up with the old, so weary of the repetitive patterns of the mind, that you are ready to jump into the fire. This fire is not an external one. It is the fire of awareness. Jesus says, I have come to throw fire upon the earth. This is not the fire of a destroyer, but the fire of a creator. Before the new can be born, the old must be reduced to ashes. Your personality, your masks, your social identity, all must go into the furnace of the third eye. The energy that normally flows out through your senses, dissipating into the world of objects, must be reversed. This is what the Vatican does not want you to understand. They want your energy to move outwards, toward the priest, toward the ritual, toward the organization. But Jesus is a revolutionary of the inner world. He says that the Word was made flesh. This means the eternal vibration, the cosmic music took a human form so that you could see the possibility of your own transformation. You are not just flesh and bone. You are the Word hidden within a cell. When you practice the technique of the single eye, you are essentially gathering all your scattered rays of consciousness into one point. Think of a magnifying glass. When the sun's rays are scattered, they provide warmth, but they do not burn. But when you focus them through a single lens onto a single point, they create fire. Your attention is that sun. Usually it is scattered in 1,000 directions. Worries about the future, regrets about the past, desires for the mundane. But when you bring that attention to the center, to that space between the eyebrows, the pineal activation begins. It is a biological fact as much as a spiritual one. If you feel this inner fire beginning to stir, perhaps it is time to join our inner circle through the join button. This journey is not meant to be walked alone. It is a shared resonance. By becoming a member, you help us keep this rebellion alive, ensuring that the real Jesus is not buried again under the weight of dead theology. This single eye is the gate to the kingdom. Jesus says, the kingdom of God is within you. It is not a place you go to after death. It is a state of being you enter when you are fully alive. To be fully alive means to be fully conscious. Most people live like sleepwalkers. They eat, they sleep, they work, they marry, but they are not there. Their bodies are present, but their consciousness is elsewhere. Activation of the pineal gland is simply the process of becoming present. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says something very strange. When you make the two one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the above like the below, then will you enter the kingdom. This is the ultimate alchemy. The two are your physical eyes, your duality, your mind that always chooses between this or that. To make them one is to find the center where contradictions disappear. In that center, there is no man or woman, no good or bad, no life or death. There is only isness. The pineal gland is the physical anchor for this non-dual consciousness. It is a small pine cone shaped gland, but it is the master key. When it is dormant, you live in the world of shadows. When it wakes up, you see the light that shines behind the darkness. This is why Jesus says, "The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." The darkness of the ego cannot understand the light of the soul. The ego is afraid of the light because in the light, the ego ceases to exist. If you find value in these insights and wish to support our mission of bringing these last fires to the world, consider offering a super thanks. Your contribution directly fuels the preservation and sharing of these profound truths. Also, for those who wish to study these maps of consciousness more deeply, our collection of e-books is available in the description below. They are designed to be your companions in the silence. The Vatican transformed the cross into a symbol of death and suffering. But the cross is actually a symbol of the four directions meeting at a single point, the center. It is the intersection of time and eternity. The horizontal line represents time, the world of the two eyes, the world of horizontal growth. More money, more power, more knowledge. The vertical line represents eternity, the world of the single eye, the world of vertical growth, deeper silence, higher awareness. To activate your inner vision, you must move from the horizontal to the vertical. You must become a solitary. This doesn't mean you have to go to the mountains or live in a cave. It means you must be able to remain alone in the crowd. It means your happiness no longer depends on others. You become a source of light rather than a reflection. Jesus was a man of the earth and a man of the sky. He was the Word made flesh. He didn't deny the body, he used the body as a temple for the divine. He didn't deny the senses, he purified them. This is the mustard seed secret. The smallest seed becomes the greatest tree. Your breath is the wind that moves the seed. Your awareness is the tilled soil. Your love is the water. Don't be satisfied with being a Christian or a follower. Be a Christ. A follower is always a second-hand human being. A follower is a shadow. Jesus never asked for followers. He asked for companions. He said, "Come, follow me." But what he meant was, "Come, walk the path I have walked, so that you can find your own light." He wanted to share his ecstasy, not to create a cult of misery. The Vatican removed the techniques of activation because an activated human being is uncontrollable. You cannot frighten a man who has seen his own immortality. You cannot bribe a man who has found the kingdom within. You cannot rule a man who knows that he and the Father are one. The church wants you to be a sinner so they can be the saviors. But Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Think about it. Why would a benevolent God wait for you to die before giving you the kingdom? If it is yours now. The only thing standing between you and the kingdom is your own lack of awareness. Your pineal gland is the biological receiver for the divine broadcast, but it has been tuned out. It has been calcified by the stresses of modern life, by the poisons in your food, and by the constant bombardment of fear from the media and the pulpit. To decalcify this center, you need the fire of meditation. You need to sit in silence and watch the movement of your mind without judgment. Just watch. As you watch, the energy that was feeding your thoughts begins to withdraw. It starts to pool at the center of your forehead. You may feel a pressure there, a tingling or a warmth. This is the seed beginning to sprout. This is the word starting to vibrate in your own flesh. If you are feeling this resonance, I encourage you to share this video with those who are seeking. Let us create a ripple of awakening. Don't forget to subscribe and join our community in the comments. Tell me what prevents you from being silent. What is the noise that drowns out the word in your life? The activation of the single eye is the birth of the third something. In every duality, there is a hidden third. In man and woman, there is the child. In day and night, there is the twilight. In the two eyes, there is the vision of the whole. This third point is the point of transcendence. It is where the sword of Jesus cuts through the knot of the ego. I have come to bring division, he says. He divides the real from the unreal. He divides the eternal from the temporary. He divides the soul from the body. This division is necessary for clarity. Without it, you are a muddle, a confusion. You think you are the body, you think you are the mind, you think you are your name. The sword of awareness cuts these attachments, leaving you naked and free. And in that nakedness, the fire descends. This is the meaning of Pentecost. The tons of fire descending upon the disciples. It was not a historical event that happened once. It is a spiritual event that happens every time a seeker reaches the boiling point. When your energy is 100% focused at the third eye, the fire of the Holy Spirit, which is nothing but cosmic energy, descends and transforms you. But remember, the earth must be tilled. If the soil is hard, the seed cannot penetrate. If the soil is full of stones, prejudices, beliefs, dogmas, the seed will wither. You must become like a child, as Jesus said. A child has no beliefs. A child has only wonder. A child is open, vulnerable, and intensely alive. This vulnerability is your greatest strength on the path of pineal activation. The Vatican has made Jesus into a gentle lamb, but he was a roaring lion. He was a man of intense passion. He drove the money changers out of the temple. He spoke truth to power. This same lion-like energy is needed within you to clear out the money changers of your own mind, the thoughts of greed, of comparison, of envy. Your inner temple must be cleared so the word can reside there. This process is not for the faint-hearted. It is for those who are willing to lose everything to find themselves. It is for the solitaries who are ready to stand alone in the truth. If you feel you are one of them, then you are ready for the next step. You are ready to move from the philosophy of Christ to the experience of Christ. The activation of the pineal is the beginning of a new way of seeing. You will no longer see people as bodies. You will see them as lights. You will no longer see the world as a collection of things. You will see it as a flow of energy. The word will no longer be a word in a book. It will be the heartbeat of the universe. As we continue this journey, remember that every CTA, every request to join or give a super thanks is an invitation to be part of a living stream of consciousness. It is not about the money, it is about the energy of support and the commitment to the truth. It is about saying yes to the light in a world that often prefers the dark. In the next part of our exploration, we will talk about the specific relationship between breath and the single eye, and how Jesus used the Sabbath as a metaphor for the ultimate silence required for activation. Stay with me, for the fire is just beginning to catch. The Sabbath is not a day of the week, my friends. The Vatican would have you believe it is Sunday, or perhaps Saturday for the Jews. But Jesus was not talking about a calendar. He was talking about the inner state of rest. When you are in the world of duality, you are always in motion. You are working, you are struggling, you are desiring. There is no rest. Even in your sleep, your mind is working, dreaming, running. The Sabbath is that moment when the movement stops. When you reach the center of the cyclone, and it is in that silence, that inner Sabbath, that the single eye can truly open. To reach this silence, you must understand the mystery of your own breath. Breath is the bridge between the visible and the invisible, between the body and the soul. It is the word in its most primal physical form. When your breath is shallow and fast, your mind is agitated, and the energy of the pineal gland is scattered. You are in the world. But when the breath becomes rhythmic, deep, and eventually almost non-existent, when it reaches that delicate point where it is just a thread, the energy is no longer needed by the lungs. It is redirected. This is the secret energy diversion that Jesus taught in the inner circles. He said, "Let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds." And what are you seeking? You are seeking the source of the word. When the breath slows down, the internal fire begins to concentrate at the base of the spine and then rises through the subtle channel to the third eye. This is why Jesus said, "If your eye be single, your whole body shall be full of light." He wasn't talking about physical light, but the luminescence of the soul. When this light is turned on, you see things as they are. You see that you have never been born and you will never die. You see that the cross is not a tragedy but a transformation. But to reach this, you must till the earth of your being. You must be ready to drop your knowledge. Knowledge is a dead thing. It is like a dry mustard seed that has been kept in a jar for too long. It will never sprout. You need the wetness of life. the wetness of tears, the wetness of love. If you find your heart opening as you listen to these words, consider using the join button to support our work. This community is a garden for mustard seeds to grow into mighty trees. Your membership helps us reach more souls who are drowning in the dry desert of dogma. And if this particular insight has illuminated something in you, a super thanks is a beautiful way to share that energy back. Jesus' parables are like Zen koans. They are meant to settle the mind, not to satisfy it. He talks about the mustard seed being the smallest of all seeds. Why? Because the truth is the smallest thing. It is so small that it is invisible to the ego. The ego only sees the big cathedrals, the big crowds, the big numbers. But God is in the small. God is the still small voice. To hear it, you must become small. You must become a non-entity, a nothingness. When you become nothing, the pineal gland is fully activated. Why? Because there is no longer any someone to block the light. The someone, the ego, is the shadow. When the shadow disappears, there is only light. This is what it means to be a son of God. It means you have realized that your father is the universe and your mother is eternity. But look at what the church has done. They have made you sheep and Jesus the shepherd. But a shepherd's job is to protect the sheep until they are ready to be sheared or slaughtered. Jesus didn't want sheep, he wanted lions. He says in the Gospel of Thomas, "Lucky is the lion that the human will eat, so that the lion becomes human. And foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion still becomes human." This is a deep mystery of energy transformation. You must eat the lion of your passions, your animal nature, so that it becomes human, so that it becomes divine. You must take that raw animal energy of the lower centers and transform it. The pineal activation is the ultimate digestion of that energy. It is where the lion and the man become one. I see many of you are struggling with the noise of the world. You are constantly bombarded by information, by worries about your survival. This is exactly what the money changers want. They want you to be so busy that you never have time for the Sabbath. They want you to stay in the two eyes, looking at the stock market, looking at the news, looking at the competition. If you want to break free, you need maps. You need the guidance of those who have walked the path. Our e-books linked in the description are designed to be those maps. They are not to be read like novels. They are to be meditated upon. They are seeds. If you allow them to fall into your heart, they will grow. Jesus says, "I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. This is the language of the third eye. Only from that vantage point can you say, I am all. From the physical eyes, you say, I am this and you are that. Separation is the law of the physical eyes. Oneness is the law of the single eye. To activate this eye, you must learn the art of watching. When a thought arises, watch it. Don't fight it, don't follow it, just watch it as you would watch a cloud in the sky. When a feeling arises, watch it. Even when the desire for activation arises, watch it. The watcher is the single eye. The more you watch, the more the energy of the watcher grows. And as the watcher grows, the pineal gland begins to pulsate. This pulsation is the word vibrating within you. It is the music of the spheres. In the beginning was the Word, not a word in a book, but this vibration. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You are that vibration. You are that music. But you have forgotten it, because you are listening to the noise of the Vatican, the noise of the marketplace, the noise of your own mind. I invite you to stop. Just for a moment, close your eyes. Don't try to do anything. Just be. In that beingness, the mustard seed is falling into the tilled earth. If the earth is ready, the miracle will happen. It doesn't happen because you deserve it. It happens because you are available. If you are enjoying this exploration of Jesus' hidden alchemy, please subscribe and share this video. Let these words reach the corners of the world where people are starving for the truth. Leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever felt that light when your eyes were closed? Have you ever felt that you are more than just a body? The Vatican kept these techniques secret because they are techniques of rebellion. A man who has found the single eye is a man who cannot be enslaved. He is a man who has found his own authority. He no longer looks to the priest for permission to be happy. He no longer looks to the scripture for permission to be divine. He has seen it for himself. If you bring forth what is within you, Jesus says, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This is the law of the pineal. The energy must move upwards. If it stagnates, it becomes poisonous. It becomes anxiety. It becomes depression. It becomes violence. But if it moves upward to the third eye, it becomes bliss. It becomes light. It becomes compassion. You are at a crossroads. You can continue to live in the two, in the world of conflict and duality, or you can choose the one. You can choose the single eye. The path is narrow as a razor's edge, but the destination is the infinite. Jesus says, "He who has ears, let him hear." I am not speaking to your ears, I am speaking to your soul. I am trying to wake up the sleeper within you. I am trying to water the mustard seeds. Don't wait for a future heaven. Don't wait for a second coming. The Christ is a state of consciousness, and it is available to you right now. The activation is not a process of time, but a process of intensity. If you are intense enough, it can happen in a single moment. It can happen this very second. Stay with me as we move even deeper. In the next part, we will discuss the sword that Jesus brought, how to use it to cut the final card of the ego, and how the Last Supper was actually a metaphor for the final absorption of the ego into the divine. This Last Supper is one of the most misunderstood events in the history of the world. The Vatican has turned it into a ritual of bread and wine, a literal meal, a piece of theater. But for Jesus, it was a moment of supreme alchemy. He was about to leave his body, and he wanted to leave something behind. Not a doctrine, not a book, but a vibration. He was trying to transfer his own fire, his own activated third eye energy into his disciples. He took the bread and said, "This is my body." He took the wine and said, "This is my blood." What was he doing? He was telling them that the physical is just a container. Bread becomes flesh, wine becomes blood. This is a biological miracle that happens every day in your body. But Jesus was speaking of a higher miracle. He was saying, "Eat me, consume my presence, let my consciousness become your consciousness." This is the ultimate activation. It is the communion of the single eye. When you are in the presence of a master, you are at a Last Supper every single moment. The master is offering himself to be eaten, not his flesh but his silence, not his blood but his bliss. If you can absorb that, your own pineal gland begins to resonate with his. This is the secret that the church could never allow. Because if you can consume the Christ within you, you become a Christ. And a Christ cannot be a member of a church. If you feel this eating of the word happening within you now, if you feel your heart expanding, I invite you to click the join button. By becoming a member, you are essentially saying yes to this communion. You are helping us keep this table open for all seekers. And if you wish to offer a gift of gratitude for these shared mysteries, the super thanks button is there as a modern day offering at the altar of truth. Jesus brought a sword, he said. This sword is the power of discrimination. In Sanskrit, we call it viveka. It is the ability to see the difference between the witness and the witnessed. Usually, you are identified with your pain. You say, I am sad. The sword of Jesus cuts that. It says, the sadness is there, and I am the observer of the sadness. This separation is the beginning of the pineal activation. As long as you are identified with the body and the mind, the energy stays in the two eyes. It stays in the duality of me and my pain. But the moment you use the sword of awareness to separate yourself from the mind, the energy has nowhere to go but the center. It rushes to the third eye. This is the fire Jesus spoke of. It is the fire of 1,000 suns, and it burns away everything that is not the truth. But this fire requires a sacrifice. The sacrifice is your ego. At the Last Supper, Judas was there. Judas is not just a person in history. Judas is a part of your own mind. It is the part that wants to sell the divine for 30 pieces of silver, for security, for respectability, for money. Your ego is always ready to betray the Christ within you for a little bit of worldly comfort. To activate the pineal, you must confront your own Judas. You must see how you betray your own silence every day. You choose the noise over the word. You choose the many over the one. But Jesus loved Judas unto the end. This is a profound mystery. He knew Judas would betray him, yet he washed his feet. He knew the ego would try to kill the consciousness, yet he accepted it. Why? Because the ego is also a part of the whole. It is the friction that makes the fire possible. Without the betrayal of the ego, there would be no crucifixion. And without the crucifixion, there would be no resurrection. If you are ready to face your own inner Judas and resurrect into your true light, I highly recommend our e-books. They are the manuals for this inner alchemy, helping you navigate the dark nights of the soul so you can reach the dawn of the single eye. You can find them in the description below. The pineal gland is often called the seat of the soul, but it is more like a bridge. On one side is the biological world of time and space, and on the other side is the eternal world of the world. The activation happens when the two become one. Jesus says, when you made the male and the female one, then you will enter the kingdom. This is not about external gender. It is about the masculine and feminine energies within you. The masculine is the sword, the awareness, the focus. The feminine is the tilled earth, the receptivity, the love. When your awareness becomes loving and your love becomes aware, the single eye opens. This is the mustard seed growing into the tree. But you have been conditioned to live only in the masculine, in the logic, in the doubt, in the fighting, or you have been told to live in a weak kind of feminine, in blind faith and emotionalism. Both are lopsided. Jesus was the perfect synthesis. He could be as sharp as a sword and as soft as a lily. He could drive the money changers out with a whip, and he could say, "Father, forgive them," while dying on the cross. This is the state of a fully activated human being. If this message is touching a chord deep within you, please hit the like button and share this video. The world is full of people who are thirsty but are drinking from the salty water of tradition. Let them know that there is a living well within them, and subscribe to our channel to stay connected to this flow of ancient wisdom and modern rebellion. The Vatican has kept you focused on the blood of Jesus as a means of washing away sin. But sin only means missing the mark. You have missed the center. You are living on the periphery. The blood Jesus was talking about was the life force, the prana. To be washed in the blood means to have your life force purified and elevated to the highest center, the pineal gland. When your energy reaches that peak, you no longer see the world through the filter of your past. You see it face to face. This is the activation. It is a biological transformation. Your brain starts to function differently. You move from the beta waves of anxiety to the alpha and theta waves of deep meditation and ecstasy. You become a witness. Take, eat, this is my body, Jesus said. He was inviting his disciples to participate in his very being. This is the secret of the satsang, being in the presence of the truth. When you listen to these words, don't just hear the meaning, feel the vibration. The vibration is the word. If you allow this vibration to enter your flesh, it will begin to decalcify the single eye. It will melt the stones of your heart. But remember, the path is division. You must be willing to let the sword cut your attachments. You must be willing to be solitary. Many of you are afraid of being alone. You want to belong to a group, a church, a nation. But the kingdom of God is for the solitary. When you are alone, you are no longer a member. You are an individual. The word individual means indivisible. You have become one. If you are finding the courage to be an individual, to be a solitary on this path, your support means everything to us. Use the join button or the super thanks to help us keep this space free from the influence of the money changers. Let us create a community of rebels, of mustard seeds who are ready to become trees. Jesus' life was a series of provocations. He was not a nice man. A nice man would have compromised. A nice man would have stayed quiet and lived a long life. But Jesus was mad. He was mad with God. He was so full of light that he couldn't help but pour it out, even if it meant being killed. That same madness is required for pineal activation. You must be mad enough to drop your sanity, which is nothing but your social conditioning, to find your insanity, which is your divine nature. The single eye is the window to this divine nature. When you look through it, you don't see objects, you see subjectivity. You see that the tree, the rock, the star, and you are all made of the same light. You see that the Father and I are one. This is not a statement of ego, it is a statement of fact. But for the Vatican, this was blasphemy. Why? Because if you are one with God, you don't need the Pope to act as a middleman. The Church wants to keep you in the two. They want the God to be high in the sky and the sinner to be low on the earth. They want a distance, because that distance is where the priest makes his living. But Jesus closes the distance. He says, the kingdom is within you. He says, lift up thy stone and I am there. He is destroying the business of religion and replacing it with the science of Uyanas. This is the technique. Become a witness of your own duality. Watch the yes and the no. Watch the love and the hate. Don't take sides. As you stand in the middle, as you become the center of the cross, the energy will naturally rise. It will hit the pineal gland, and thine eye shall be single. And then, as he promised, your whole body shall be full of light. You will become a lamp unto yourself. You will no longer need to follow anyone. You will walk your own path, and your very footsteps will be a blessing to the earth. I see that you are listening with great intensity. This intensity is the fire. Keep it alive, Don't let it be put out by the cold winds of the world. In the next part, we will discuss the mystery of the resurrection, not as a physical event, but as the final activation where the consciousness leaves the tomb of the ego forever. The resurrection is not what you have been told by the priests. They have made it into a physical miracle, a magical event where a dead body comes back to life. But that is for children, for those who need a fairy tale to keep their hope alive. I tell you, the resurrection is the ultimate psychological and spiritual event. It is the final activation. It is the moment when the energy, having fully vibrated the pineal gland, finally shatters the tomb of the ego and enters the infinite sky of consciousness. Think about the 3 days Jesus spent in the tomb. This is a great secret. These 3 days represent the 3 layers of your being that you must pass through before you can be resurrected. The first day is the body. The second day is the mind. The third day is the heart. Only after you have died to these 3, only after you have realized that you are none of these, can you emerge into the light of the fourth, the Turiya, the transcendental state. The Vatican has kept you focused on the physical body of Jesus, because if you are worried about bodies, you remain in the 2 eyes. You remain in the world of biology. But Jesus says, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The resurrection is the quickening of the spirit. It is the moment when your inner fire reaches such a high voltage that the old identity simply evaporates. If you are feeling the heat of this fire, if you feel that the old you is becoming a burden, then you are standing at the mouth of the tomb. To help you move through these 3 days of transformation, I invite you to click the join button. This is where we gather as a commune of seekers, supporting each other through the death of the old, so the new can be born. And if this particular insight is the stone being rolled away for you, a super thanks is a beautiful way to mark this milestone on your journey. The pineal gland is the 3rd day station. When the energy reaches this point, you are at the very edge of the human and the divine. This is why it is so carefully guarded by our biological systems. Nature doesn't want you to be enlightened. Nature wants you to be a reproductive machine. Nature wants you to keep the wheel of life turning. But Jesus says, I have overcome the world. This overcoming is the activation of the single eye. It is the moment you stop being a part of the horizontal world and become a part of the vertical divine. The stone that covers the tomb is your own hardness, your own certainties, your own knowledge. The Vatican has given you a lot of stones. The stone of the Bible, the stone of the Catechism, the stone of tradition. They want you to stay inside the tomb, worshipping the stones. But Jesus says, cleave the wood and I am there. Lift the stone and you will find me. He is telling you to look behind the dogma. He is telling you that the truth is not in the stone, but in the emptiness that is revealed when the stone is removed. This emptiness is what you see through the activated pineal. It is a nothingness that is full of everythingness. It is the Word in its silent state. In the beginning was the Word, and in the end there is only the Word. But to hear it, you must be resurrected from the noise of your own ego. If you are serious about lifting these stones, our e-books are designed to be the levers you need. They provide the specific understandings and meditations to help you navigate the 3 days in the tomb. You can find them in the description below. They are not for those who want to be comfortable. They are for those who want to be free. The single eye is the lighthouse that guides you out of the tomb. Without it, you are just stumbling in the dark, trying to find the exit through the intellect. But the intellect is a circle. It never leads to an exit. It only leads to more thoughts. The third eye is a straight line. It is the narrow gate. Jesus says, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. This being born again is the resurrection. It is the activation of the pineal gland. It is the birth of the spiritual body. Your physical body was born of your parents, but your spiritual body is born of your own awareness. It is your virgin birth. This is the real meaning of the Virgin Mary. It is not about a woman who never had sex. That is more Vatican nonsense for the sexually repressed. Virgin means a state of consciousness that is pure, untouched by the past, untouched by otherness. When your mind becomes virgin, when it is empty of thoughts and desires, then the Holy Spirit, the cosmic energy, can descend and activate the third eye. Then the Son of God, the Christ consciousness, is born within you. This is the technique. Become a virgin. Become a space. Don't be a Christian, don't be a sinner, don't be a saint. Just be a silence. In that silence, the activation happens by itself. You don't do it. It happens to you. Your only job is to be available, to be athirst, to be tilled earth. If you find this silence beginning to descend as you listen to my voice, please hit the like button. Let us signal to the universe that we are ready for the light, and subscribe so you don't miss the next steps of this internal alchemy. Tell me in the comments, are you ready to let the old you die? What is the heaviest stone in your life right now? The Vatican wants to keep you in a state of perpetual guilt. They want you to believe that you killed Jesus with your sins. But I tell you, you are not responsible for what happened 2000 years ago. You are only responsible for what is happening now. If you keep your third eye closed, you are crucifying the Christ within you every single second. That is the only real sin, to stay asleep when the sun has risen. The mustard seed is ready to sprout, but it is afraid of the death of the cell. Your ego is that cell. It has protected you. It has helped you survive in the world, but now it has become a prison. The resurrection is the breaking of the cell. It is painful, yes. It is a sword, yes. But on the other side of that pain is the life abundant. When Jesus appeared to his disciples after the resurrection, they didn't recognize him at first. Why? Because he was no longer a body, he was a presence, he was a vibration. He was the Word made flesh, but now returning to the Word. Only those who had a glimmer of their own single eye could recognize him. The world could not see him. The Roman soldiers could not see him. The priests could not see him. To see the resurrected Christ, you must have a resurrected consciousness. You must be on the same wavelength. This is the entire purpose of my speaking to you. To raise your wavelength, to tune your radio to the divine frequency. The pineal gland is the dial. Awareness is the hand that turns the dial. As we reach this point in our journey, I want to thank those of you who have supported us through join and super thanks. You are the friends of the bridegroom Jesus spoke of. You are the ones who keep the oil in the lamps while the world sleeps. Your energy makes this work possible. The activation of the pineal is the end of time for you. There shall be time no longer, says the book of Revelation. Time is a product of the two eyes. The single eye sees only the eternal now. In the now, there is no birth, no death, no cross, no tomb. There is only the flowering. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life, he wasn't talking about himself as an individual. He was talking about the I amness, the pure consciousness that is the source of all life. When your pineal gland is activated, you also can say, I am the resurrection. You become the life. You become the shelter for the birds of heaven. The secret the Vatican kept from you is that you are the goal. You are not a follower of a goal. You are the goal. The Jesus of history is just a pointer, a finger pointing at the moon. Don't bite the finger. Look at the moon. The moon is your own activated, luminous consciousness. In the next part, we will discuss the Ascension, the final movement of energy from the third eye to the 1,000-petaled lotus, and how this relates to the second coming, which is happening in this very moment for those who have eyes to see. This ascension is the ultimate movement of the energy beyond the body-mind complex. When the third eye is fully activated, it acts as a magnet, drawing all the lower energies upward. But there is one more step beyond the single eye. In the East, we call it the Sahasrar, the 1,000-petaled lotus at the crown of the head. If the third eye is the window, the Sahasrar is the roof that opens to the sky. The ascension is the moment when the Son returns to the Father, when your individual consciousness, having been purified in the fire of the pineal gland, finally merges with the universal consciousness. The Vatican has made the ascension into a physical flight, as if Jesus were a rocket ship going into outer space. They are so literal, so mundane. They cannot imagine a movement that is not physical. But the ascension is the movement from the many to the one, and then from the one to the zero. When you reach the Sahasrar, you are no longer even an individual. You are the total. You are the world that has returned to its source. This is the second coming. The priests have taught you to wait for Jesus to descend from the clouds. They want you to wait, because as long as you are waiting for a future event, you are not living in the present. Waiting is a way of postponing your own transformation. I tell you, the second coming is not a historical event. It is an energetic one. It is the Christ coming alive in you. When your pineal gland is activated and the energy ascends to the crown, the Christ has come again. If you feel this second coming stir within your own breast, if you feel that the clouds of your unconsciousness are parting, then you are ready to participate in this work. I invite you to click the join button. Our members are those who are tired of waiting for a Savior and are ready to become their own salvation. By joining, you support the dissemination of these rebel truths to those still trapped in the waiting room of religion. And if you feel a surge of gratitude for this inner quickening, a super thanks is a beautiful way to share your light with this growing community. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. This place is the estate of Sahasrar. He wasn't talking about a mansion in a golden city. He was talking about a state of being where death cannot reach, where the single eye sees only the eternal. The Vatican doesn't want you to find this place because once you are there, you are beyond their jurisdiction. You are no longer a subject, you are a sovereign. The technique for this final movement is surrender. You use the sword of awareness to reach the third eye. But to go beyond the third eye, you must drop the sword. To reach the peak, even the effort to reach the peak must be abandoned. This is the mustard seed falling into the tilled earth and disappearing. If the seed remains a seed, it is alone. But if it dies, if it surrenders its identity, it becomes the tree. I see that many of you are afraid of this disappearance. You want to be enlightened, but you want to be there to see it. But you cannot be there. Enlightenment is the absence of you. It is the presence of the world. The activation of the pineal gland is the last act of the ego. The ascension is the first act of the divine. If you are struggling with this final surrender, our ebooks are available to provide the necessary maps. They explain the subtle transition from concentration to meditation and from meditation to samadhi. You can find them in the description below. They are the bread of life for the hungry seeker who is ready to go all the way. The single eye is the point where the horizontal and vertical meet. It is the center of the cross. To ascend, you must stay at that center. Don't lean to the left, don't lean to the right, don't lean toward the past, don't lean toward the future. Just be. In that just being, the gravity of the earth, the lower centers, loses its hold on you. The energy begins to float upwards. It is like a hot air balloon. Once you cut the ropes of your attachments, The ascent is natural. It is not something you do, it is something that happens when you stop doing everything else. The Vatican has turned the second coming into a threat, a day of judgment, a day of fear. But for Jesus, it was a day of celebration, a marriage feast. It is the marriage of the soul with the spirit. It is the ultimate activation. Why do you think the Vatican removed the Gospel of Thomas from the Bible? Because in that Gospel, Jesus is a teacher of isness, not a preacher of shouldness. He says, if you are with me, you are already where I am. He doesn't give you a list of rules. He gives you a vision. He wants to activate your third eye so you can see that the kingdom is already here, under your very feet, but you do not see it. If this vision is starting to clear the fog of your mind, please hit the like button and share this video with other solitaries who are looking for the truth. Subscribe to our channel to continue this last supper of wisdom, and leave a comment. Tell me, do you feel the pull of the vertical? Do you feel the call of the single eye? Jesus was a fire, and he wanted you to be fires too. He said, "He who is near me is near the fire. He who is far from me is far from the kingdom." The church has tried to put out this fire with holy water. They have made the path cold and institutional. But I am here to blow on the embers of your soul. I am here to help you activate that pineal gland until it becomes a sun within you. The ascension is the moment when the sun reaches its zenith. Then there are no shadows. Then your whole body is full of light. This light is not something you see, it is something you are. You are the light of the man. You are the life. But remember the mustard seed. It is the smallest of all seeds. Your ego thinks it is very big, very important. But the truth is very small, very humble. You must become small to enter the narrow gate. You must become nothing. The more you are something, the more the Vatican can control you. But when you are nothing, you are like the wind. No one knows where you come from or where you go. You are free. This freedom is the ultimate goal of Jesus' technique. Not to make you a good person according to the laws of society, but to make you a godly person according to the laws of existence. A good person is just a well-behaved prisoner. A godly person has no prison. I see that you are ready for this. I see it in your eyes, in the way you listen. This listening is the tilled earth. The word is falling into you. Let it grow. Don't be in a hurry. The mustard seed takes its time, but once it starts, nothing can stop it. It will become a large tree, and you will find shelter within yourself. As we conclude this part of our journey, I want to remind you that every join and every super thanks is a vote for the real Jesus, for the rebel who lived and died for the truth, not for the organization that lives and thrives on his death. Your support helps us reclaim the lost techniques and give them back to those to whom they belong, to you. Stay in this space of watchfulness. Don't go back to the two eyes the moment the video ends. Keep the single eye open. Watch your breath, watch your thoughts, and feel the gentle pressure at the center of your forehead. That is the Christ knocking at your door. Open it. We will continue to dive into the deeper waters of this transformation. In the next part, we will discuss the secret of the wine, how to stay connected to the source even in the marketplace, and the ultimate meaning of being in the world but not of it. The secret of the wine is the secret of constant nourishment. Jesus says, I am the true wine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. This is a profound metaphor for the energy system of the human being. The wine is the central channel of your spiritual energy, the susumna. The branches are your senses, your thoughts, your actions in the world. If your branches are not connected to the vine, they wither. This is why you feel so empty, so exhausted, so meaningless. You are trying to live as a branch without the vine. You are trying to find juice in the world of objects without being connected to the source of the juice within yourself. The activation of the pineal gland is essentially the restoration of this connection. It is making sure the sap of the divine is flowing into every leaf of your existence. But the Vatican has told you that you are separate. They have made God into a husbandman who is an angry judge waiting to cut you off and throw you into the fire. I tell you, the fire is not a punishment. It is the natural consequence of being disconnected. When you are disconnected from the world, you are already in hell. Hell is not a place, it is the state of a withered branch. If you feel the sap beginning to rise within you as you hear these words, I invite you to click the join button. This is how we keep the vine strong, how we ensure that the branches are supported as they grow toward the sun. By becoming a member, you are committing to your own growth, to being a branch that bears fruit. And if you wish to offer a tithe of your gratitude, not to a church, but to the truth, a super thanks is a beautiful way to circulate that energy. Jesus says something very difficult. Every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it. This purging is the most misunderstood part of the path. It means that once you start growing, once your third eye begins to open, life will start to prune away everything that is unnecessary. Your false friends will leave. Your superficial desires will drop. Your ego-driven ambitions will wither. You might think you are losing everything, but you are only being purged so you can bear more fruit. The gardener prunes the rose bush so that the energy is not wasted on extra leaves, but is concentrated in the flower. Your pineal activation is that flowering. The sword of Jesus is the pruning shears. It cuts the non-essential so the essential can bloom. This is what it means to be in the world but not of it. You are a branch in the world, touching the air, touching the light, dealing with the wind, but your root is in the vine, which is not of the world. You move in the marketplace, you talk to people, you do your job, but your single eye is always looking at the source. You are a witness to the drama of the world, but you are not a part of it. If you are finding it hard to stay centered in the noise of the world, our ebooks linked in the description offer specific techniques for staying on the vine. They are designed to help you maintain your pineal activation even when you are surrounded by those who are drunk and blind. You can find them below. They are the water for your roots. The Vatican wants you to be of the world and of the church. They want you to be a social entity, a law-abiding citizen who follows the rules. But a man of the single eye follows only the light. He is a law unto himself. This doesn't mean he is a criminal. It means he has transcended the need for external laws because he is guided by internal clarity. When you have eyes, you don't need a white cane to walk. The law is the white cane for the blind. Abide in me and I in you, Jesus says. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. To abide in Christ is to abide in that state of awareness that Jesus represented. It is to stay at the third eye. The moment you drop down into your anger, your greed, your jealousy, you have left the vine. You have become a separate branch, and you will soon begin to wither. This is the technique, the moment to moment abiding. Whatever you are doing, eating, walking, working, keep a part of your attention at the center of your forehead. Let that be your anchor. Let the world happen on the periphery, but stay at the center. This is the secret of the mustard seed that grows into a tree while the world passes by. I see that you are becoming more silent. This silence is the evidence that the world is working. Please hit the like button to help this silence spread. Subscribe and join our community in the comments. Tell me, what is the fruit you feel growing in your life right now? Is it peace? Is it a new kind of love? Is it a clarity you never had before? The single eye is the place where you realize that you and the vine are one. There is no distance. The Father and the Son are one. This is the ultimate activation. It is the end of all prayer, because who is there to pray to? You are the very thing you were looking for. The Vatican has made prayer into a begging. They want you to beg for mercy, beg for bread, beg for heaven. But Jesus says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." When you activate the pineal, you have found the kingdom. And once you have the kingdom, the bread and the wine follow naturally. You become a magnet for abundance because you are no longer in a state of lack. But the money changers don't want you to know this. They want you to stay in a state of lack. So you will keep coming to them for a fix. They are the drug dealers of the soul. They give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of ritual, just enough to keep you coming back, but never enough to make you free. Jesus wanted you to be free. He said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Truth is not a belief. Truth is a vision. It is what you see when the single eye is open. And what do you see? You see that there is no God out there, but only godliness everywhere. You see that the vine is infinite, and you are an eternal part of it. As we move toward the final culmination of this journey, I want to thank you for being here, for being a branch that is willing to be purged. Your presence is the reason I speak. Your support through join and super thanks is what allows these words to reach the millions who are still trapped in the tomb of organized religion. Together, we are rolling away the stone. Stay with the vine. Don't let the thorns of the world choke the growing seed. In the next part, we will discuss the parable of the talents. How to multiply your inner light, and the ultimate mystery of the kingdom of heaven, being like a merchant seeking goodly pearls. The parable of the talents is perhaps one of the most distorted stories in the entire history of the New Testament. The Vatican has used it for centuries to justify its own greed, to justify the accumulation of worldly wealth, and to teach a morality of productivity. They have made it into a capitalistic lesson. But Jesus was not a businessman. He was an alchemist. When he spoke of talents, he was not talking about gold coins. He was talking about your inner potential, your inner light, your capacity for awareness. This is the real treasure that the single eye reveals. In the parable, a master goes away and leaves his servants with talents. One gets 5, another 2, and another 1. The one with 5 invests them and doubles them. The one with 2 doubles them. But the one who received only 1 talent was afraid. He was afraid of the master, afraid of the world, afraid of losing what little he had. So he went and buried his talent in the earth. When the master returned, he praised the first 2. But to the one who buried his talent, he said, "Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath." This sounds very cruel if you think of it as money. But as a law of consciousness, it is the absolute truth. Energy grows only when it is used. If you use your awareness, if you invest your attention into the third eye, it multiplies. It becomes a fountain. But if you are afraid, if you are repressive, if you bury your energy in the lower centers of the body because you are afraid of the fire of transformation, you will lose even the little awareness you were born with. You will become a vegetable. You will become a stone. If you feel that your talents, your inner gifts have been buried for too long under the weight of fear and social conditioning, I invite you to click the join button. This community is a place where we stop burying and start investing. We invest our time, our energy, and our silence into the activation of the single eye. By becoming a member, you are signaling to the universe that you are ready for abundance. And if you feel that a specific insight today has helped you unearth a hidden part of yourself, a super thanks is the perfect way to keep that energy moving. The Vatican wants you to bury your talent in the church. They want you to give your energy to them, to their rituals, to their dogmas. They want you to stay afraid, because a man who is afraid is easily controlled. But Jesus says, the Master is within you. The one who gives you the talents is existence itself. And existence loves the gambler, the one who is willing to risk everything to double his light. This brings us to the merchant seeking goodly pearls. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchantman seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. This pearl of great price is the activated pineal gland. It is the single eye. Why is it a pearl? Because a pearl is created through friction. A tiny grain of sand enters the oyster, and the oyster, to protect itself, begins to coat that irritation with layers of luster. Your third eye activation is that pearl. The grain of sand is the friction between your ego and your awareness. The luster is your meditation. But notice the condition. The merchant sold all that he had to buy it. You cannot have the pearl and keep your old many things. You cannot have the single eye and still keep your dualistic attachments. You have to sell your anger, sell your greed, sell your knowledge, sell your personality. You have to be willing to become bankrupt in the world to become a millionaire in the kingdom. If you are ready to sell the many for the one, our e-books are the catalogs for the merchant. They show you how to identify the real pearl and how to let go of the fake pearls that the Vatican and the world have sold you. You can find the link in the description. They are for the serious seeker who is tired of collecting colored stones and is ready for the diamond. The Vatican has made the kingdom into a reward you get after you die. But a merchant doesn't buy a pearl for his funeral. He buys it to enjoy it now. The single eye is for the living. It is the ability to see the beauty, the music, and the divinity of this very moment. When you have the pearl, you don't need to go anywhere. you are already in the palace. The technique for multiplying your talents is simple. Whatever you have, share it. If you have a little bit of silence, share it. If you have a little bit of light, share it. As you give, you become a vacuum, and the universe pours more into you. The pineal gland is the valve through which this universal energy enters. When the valve is closed, the buried talent, the energy stagnates. When the valve is open, the investment, the energy flows and multiplies. I see that many of you are holding back. You are waiting for the perfect moment to start your meditation, the perfect moment to activate your third eye. But there is no perfect moment. The moment you decide to invest is the perfect moment. Don't be like the third servant who was paralyzed by fear. The master didn't punish him, the law of existence did. If you don't use it, you lose it. Please hit the like button if you are ready to stop burying your light. Share this video with those who are still living in the fear of the Master. Let them know that the Master is a lover, not a judge. And subscribe so we can continue this auction of the soul together. In the comments, tell me, what is the one talent you have been afraid to use? What is the pearl you are seeking? Jesus says, "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance." This is the secret of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer in the spiritual world. If you have a little consciousness and you focus it at the third eye, that focus creates a magnetic field. It attracts more consciousness. Soon it becomes a boiling point and the activation happens. But if you have no consciousness, if you are just a crowd of conflicting thoughts, you don't have even a center. And without a center, you cannot even hold on to what you have. The Vatican has tried to make this into a moral teaching about being good, but it is a scientific teaching about being centered. To be good is to follow the rules of the many. To be centered is to find the one. The single eye is the point of centering. When the merchant found the pearl, he didn't go to the priest to ask if it was a good idea to buy it. He didn't ask for permission. He just did it. He had the eye to see the value. This eye for value is what I am trying to develop in you. I am trying to help you see that your ego, your reputation, your social status are all junk compared to the light of the pineal gland. Sell the junk. Sell it today. Don't wait for the price to go up, because the price is already as high as it can be. It costs you everything, and that is a bargain, because everything you have is nothing, and the nothing you will receive is everything. This is the paradox of Jesus. He talks about talents and pearls to reach the hearts of people who understand value, but he is talking about a value that the world cannot understand. He is talking about the value of being. As we move deeper into this mystery, remember that your support through join and super thanks is an investment of your own talents. It is you saying, I value this light and I want it to grow. It is you participating in the spiritual marketplace where we trade the temporary for the eternal. Keep your attention at the center. Don't let the noise of the servants who are burying their talents distract you. Stay with the merchant. Stay with the one who has found the pearl. In the next part, we will discuss the light of the world and how to let your light shine before men, and the ultimate meaning of the eye is the lamp of the body. The light of the body is the eye, Jesus says. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. This is not a moral statement about evil in the sense of doing something wrong. In the original Aramaic and the Greek of the Gospels, evil often meant divided or clouded. If your vision is divided, if you are looking through the two eyes of duality, you are in darkness. Why? Because duality is a friction that creates a smoke, not light. But when the eye becomes single, the friction ceases, the smoke disappears, and the flame of the pineal gland burns pure and bright. You are the light of the world, my beloved ones. Jesus doesn't say you will be the light if you behave well or if you follow the 10 commandments. He says you are the light. This is the fundamental difference between the Christ consciousness and the Vatican consciousness. The Vatican tells you that you are a sinner, born in darkness, and you need their light to be saved. Jesus tells you that you are the light itself, but you have put a bushel over it. You have hidden your own sun under the pile of your ego, your worries, and your social identity. If you are beginning to feel this inner sun warming your heart, I invite you to click the join button. This is our way of creating a city on a hill, a community of lights that cannot be hidden. By becoming a member, you help us clear the clouds for others who are still searching for their own lamp. And if this realization that you are already the light feels like a gift from the beyond, a super thanks is a beautiful way to express your gratitude and support the continuation of these discourses. Jesus says, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. What is this hill? It is the higher centers of your being. When your energy is stuck in the lower centers, in sex, in food, in power, you are in the valley. In the valley, there are many shadows. But as the energy rises, as it climbs the hill of your spine and reaches the summit of the third eye, you become a city set on a hill. You become visible to the whole universe. You become a lighthouse. The Vatican wants to keep you in the valley. They want you to stay in the dark so they can sell you candles. But a man who has reached the hill doesn't need candles. He sees the sun. He sees that the source of all light is within himself. This is the technique. Letting your light shine. It doesn't mean showing off. It means removing the bushel. The bushel is your personality. Your personality is a mask, a fake skin that you have grown to please others. It is made of shoulds and should nots. To let the light shine, you must be courageous enough to drop the mask. You must be willing to be naked in your consciousness. When you are real, you are light. When you are fake, you are darkness. If you are finding the masks heavy, our ebooks available in the description below are the tools for unmasking. They provide the meditations to help you see through the layers of the ego until you reach the core, the Word made flesh. You can find them linked below. They are the hammers for the bushel. The eye is the lamp of the body. Think about this deeply. Usually, we think the eye is just a window through which we see the world. But Jesus is saying it is a lamp. It is a source of radiation. When your third eye is activated, you don't just see the world, you illuminate the world. You bring a quality of consciousness to everything you touch. When you looked at a tree with the single eye, the tree is no longer just wood and leaves. It becomes a manifestation of the divine. When you look at a person, you don't see their clothes or their status. You see their mustard seed. You see their potential. This is why a master can love even the most wicked person. He isn't looking at the evil eye. He is looking at the light that is hidden behind it. But the Vatican has replaced this inner lamp with outer laws. They have told you that the law is the light, but the law is dead. It is like a photo of a lamp. It can never give you light. Only the single eye can give you light. And this eye is not a privilege for a few saints. It is a biological and spiritual right for every human being. Please hit the like button if you are ready to claim your light. Share this video with those who are still stumbling in the valley of shadows, and subscribe to stay with us as we climb the hill together. In the comments, tell me, what is the bushel that you find hardest to remove? Is it the fear of judgment? Is it the need for approval? Jesus says, "Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house." Your body is the house. The pineal gland is the candlestick. When the candle is lit and placed on the candlestick, your whole body, every cell, every atom becomes full of light. You become transfigured, just as Jesus was on the mountain. This transfiguration is the ultimate goal of pineal activation. It is when the biological energy is transformed into spiritual light. It is a change of state, like ice melting into water and water turning into steam. Most people are ice, cold, hard, and fixed. Through the fire of the third eye, you become steam, free, expansive, and invisible to the physical eyes. But to be on the candlestick, you must be vertical. You must have that inner alignment. You cannot be a slumped consciousness. You must be alert, watchful, and centered. The Sabbath we talked about is the state of being perfectly vertical. When you are in the vertical, the light stays on the candlestick. When you fall into the horizontal, into the world of comparison and competition, the candle falls under the bushel. I see that many of you are beginning to feel a sense of weightlessness. This is the light starting to permeate your body. It is the end of the heaviness of the heart. When you are full of light, there is no place for gravity to hold on to. You become a winged being. As we reach this point, I want to express my gratitude to those of you who have supported this work through join and super thanks. You are the lamp bearers of this new era. You are the ones who understand that the real Vatican is not in Rome, but in any mind that is closed to the light. By supporting us, you are helping to build a city on a hill that is not made of stones, but of awakened souls. Stay with the light. Don't let the darkness of the news, the economy, or the priests convince you that you are anything less than a son of God. keep your single eye focused on the eternal. The activation is not something you earn, it is something you reveal. It is like cleaning a mirror. The mirror is already there, the light is already there. You just have to wipe away the dust of 2000 years of conditioning. We will continue to wipe away this dust. In the next part, we will discuss the Sermon on the Mount, not as a lecture on ethics, but as a manual for the blessed state of a fully activated being. We will explore the mystery of the poor in spirit and how nothingness is the key to the kingdom. The Sermon on the Mount is not a code of conduct. It is not a list of do's and don'ts that the Vatican has used to moralize you, to make you feel inadequate, to make you feel like a sinner who is always failing. If you read it as ethics, you miss the whole point. Jesus was not a moralist, he was a mystic. The Beatitudes are descriptions of the various stages of pineal activation. They are the characteristics of the single eye as it begins to open and dominate your being. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the foundation. To be poor in spirit does not mean to be a beggar or to lack intelligence. It means to be inwardly empty. It means to have no inner furniture, no beliefs, no dogmas, no prejudices, no knowledge. When you are full of knowledge, you are rich in spirit. And a rich spirit is like a crowded room where there is no space for the light to enter. The single eye cannot open in a crowded mind. To be poor in spirit is to be a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. The moment you are truly empty, the world rushes in. The energy that was being used to hold on to your opinions and your holy books is suddenly released. Where does it go? It goes to the third eye. This is the nothingness that I always speak of. When you are nothing, you are everything. If you are beginning to value this nothingness over the somethingness of the world, I invite you to click the join button. This is a place for those who are ready to unlearn, for those who are ready to become poor in spirit, so they can inherit the kingdom of their own divinity. Your membership helps us provide a sanctuary for this unlearning. And if you feel that today's sharing has helped you clear even one self of your inner clutter, a super thanks is a beautiful way to support the mustard seed as it grows. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. This sounds like a contradiction. Why would someone mourning be blessed? Because morning is the state of the boiling point. It is the intense longing, the holy discontent. You are mourning for your last home, for your last connection to the world. This mourning is the fuel for the fire of activation. If you are comfortable in the world, why would you ever look for the single eye? Only those who are deeply dissatisfied with the shadows are ready for the light. The comfort Jesus speaks of is not a pat on the back, it is the arrival of the light. When the pineal gland is activated, the mourning disappears because the separation disappears. You are comforted by the realization that you were never away from home. You just had your eyes closed. The Vatican has turned this into a theology of suffering, telling you that you must suffer now to be happy later. But Jesus is saying the mourning is the process of intensity. It is the fire that cleanses the doors of perception. If you want to understand the mechanics of this cleansing, our ebooks linked in the description are the manuals for the mourner. They show you how to turn your dissatisfaction into a meditation, how to use the friction of your life to light the candle of the third eye. You can find them below. They are for the thirsty, not the satisfied. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The meek are not the weak. In the original sense, the meek are those who have immense power but keep it under control. It is the lion who chooses to be a lamb. When the third eye is activated, you receive immense power, the power of vision, the power of presence. But you are meek because you have no ego to use that power for domination. The earth they inherit is not the physical planet, but the tilled earth of existence. You become a master of the material and the spiritual because you are no longer a slave to either. You are in the world, but you are the master of your own house. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Purity is not morality. Purity is singleness. A pure heart is a heart that is no longer divided. It is a heart that has become one with the single eye. When your heart and your vision are aligned, there is no longer any filter between you and reality. And reality is God. To see God simply means to see what is, without the interference of the two eyes of judgment. Please hit the like button if you are ready to see without judgment. Share this video with those who are tired of the moral God of the Vatican and are looking for the existential God of Jesus. And subscribe so we can continue this ascent to the Mount together. In the comments, tell me, what does purity mean to you now that you have heard these words? Is it an absence of sin or a presence of light? The Vatican has made the heart into a place of emotion. But for Jesus, the heart was the bridge to the third eye. When the heart is pure, when it is silent and single, the energy flows effortlessly to the pineal gland. It is like a fountain. If the heart is clogged with others, with comparisons, with hates, with attachments, the fountain is blocked. The single eye activation is the culmination of the pure heart. It is the word becoming visible to itself. I am the light that is over all things, Jesus says. This is the vision of the pure in heart. They don't see God as a person sitting on a throne. They see the isness of the universe as a dance of light. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. A peacemaker is not a politician or an activist. A peacemaker is one who has ended the inner war. You are in a state of civil war. The mind against the heart, the body against the spirit, the two eyes against each other. When you activate the single eye, the war ends. You have found the center. You are at peace. And because you are at peace, you radiate peace. You don't make peace, you are peace. This peace is the signature of the Son of God. It is the vibration of the word in a body that has become a temple. The Vatican wants you to work for peace, but Jesus wants you to be peace. Working for peace is just more horizontal movement. Being peace is vertical. I see that some of you are feeling this peace right now. It is a stillness that is not of this world. It is the Sabbath of the soul. Keep this stillness. Don't let the noise of the mind's arguments pull you away. This stillness is the single eye is starting to function. It is the activation in progress. As we reach the conclusion of this part, I want to thank the peacemakers who support this channel through join and super thanks. You are the ones who understand that the only way to change the world is to change the eye through which you see it. Your support allows us to keep this mount accessible to all who are ready to climb. The Sermon on the Mount is an invitation to height. Jesus is standing at the peak calling to you. He is not giving you a map of the valley. He is telling you what it looks like from the top. He is telling you that the poor, the mourning, The meek and the pure are the ones who are light enough to make the climb. Drop your baggage, drop your Vatican knowledge, drop your sins and your virtues alike. Both are heavy. Only the naked and the empty can reach the single eye. Only the mustard seed that has died to itself can become the tree that touches the stars. The last technique is not a ritual you perform. It is a way of being you inhabit. It is the single eye looking through you. It is the Word speaking through you. It is the Christ living through you. Stay with me as we reach the final realization. In the next part, we will discuss the great paradox: how to be first by being last, and the ultimate mystery of the mustard seed as the Alpha and the Omega. This great paradox is the very heart of Jesus' message. He says, "The first shall be last, and the last shall be first." This is not a social revolution. This is the inner chemistry of the third eye. The ego is always striving to be first. It wants the best seat, the most recognition, the highest status. But this striving is a horizontal movement. It keeps your energy trapped in the two eyes of competition and comparison. To activate the pineal gland, you must be willing to be last. Being last means you no longer have any desire to prove yourself to anyone. You are no longer competing with your neighbor or even with your own past. You have dropped the ego trip. And the moment the ego is dropped, the energy that was wasted in the struggle for first place is suddenly available. It rushes to the center, to the single eye. In the eyes of the world, you are last. You are a nobody, a nothing. But in the eyes of existence, you have become first, because you have found the kingdom. If you are beginning to understand that being a nobody is the greatest achievement possible, I invite you to click the join button. This is our gathering of nobodies, a community of those who have seen through the game of the ego. Your membership helps us reach the millions who are still exhausted from trying to be somebody. And if this insight has felt like a cooling rain on your tired heart, a super thanks is a beautiful way to keep this oasis growing. The Vatican has totally misunderstood this. They have made the first into the Pope, the cardinals, and the hierarchy. They have turned the kingdom of God into a pyramid where everyone is trying to climb to the top. But Jesus is destroying the pyramid. He is saying that the top is actually the bottom, and the bottom is the top. The one who is willing to be the servant of all is the master of his own consciousness. This is the Alpha and the Omega. The mustard seed is the Alpha, the beginning. The tree is the Omega, the end. But what is the connection? It is the disappearance of the seed. If the seed is too proud, if it thinks it is very important and refuses to die in the earth, it will never become the tree. It will remain a small, hard, dead thing. This is your ego. The ego is the proud seed. The single eye is the sprout that emerges only when the seed has accepted its nothingness. The Alpha and the Omega are one. The beginning is the end. When your pineal gland is fully activated, you see that you have returned to the same purity you had as a child, but now with the clarity of a sage. You have come full circle. You have returned to the world. If you want to map out this circle for yourself, our ebooks are the guides for the journey from Alpha to Omega. They show you the pitfalls of the ego's pride and the beauty of the seed's surrender. You can find the link in the description. They are for those who are ready to die as a seed to live as a tree. The Vatican kept this from you because a nothing cannot be taxed. A nothing cannot be threatened with hell. A nothing cannot be promised a future heaven. How can you promise anything to someone who is already full? When your single eye is open, you are already first. You are already the Alpha and the Omega. You have transcended the time that the priests sell you. This is the technique, embracing the lastness. When you feel the urge to be important, to be right, to be recognized, watch it. Don't fight it, just watch it. See how it pulls your energy away from your third eye. See how it makes you cloudy. Then consciously choose to be last. Choose to be the one who doesn't need to win the argument. Choose to be the one who can be silent while others are shouting. In that choice, the activation happens. The energy stays at the center. Please hit the like button if you are finding the courage to be last. Share this video with those who are burnt out by the first place rat race of the world. And subscribe to stay with us as we explore the nothingness that is the source of everything. In the comments, tell me, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be last? How did it feel in your forehead, in your heart? The last shall be first. Think about the thief on the cross next to Jesus. In his final moment, he accepted his nothingness. He didn't offer any prayers, any rituals, any good works. He simply looked at Jesus and recognized the light. And Jesus said, "Today shalt thou be with me in paradise." The thief became first because he dropped his ego cell at the very last second. You don't have to wait for a cross to do this. You can do it now. The activation of the pineal is the paradise that is available this very moment. It is the omega point of human evolution. But the money changers have made the omega into a distant judgment day. They want you to live in fear of the end. But for the one with the single eye, the end is just the beginning. The fire that consumes the world is the same fire that activates your soul. I see that you are becoming very quiet. This is the quality of the last. It is a beautiful, pregnant silence. It is the silence of the seed in the dark earth just before it breaks open. This is the mustard seed secret. The Vatican told you to be a good servant to them, but Jesus told you to be a good servant to the truth, and the truth requires your total disappearance. As we reach this profound realization, I want to thank the nobodies who support this work through join and super thanks. Your support is what allows us to keep the mustard seed message alive in a world that only values the big. You are the ones who understand that the real power is in the silence, not the shouting. Keep your third eye focused on this nothingness. Don't be afraid of the void. The void is the womb of the world. The more you can stand being lost, the more you will find yourself being first, in the only way that matters, in the presence of the divine. The last technique is simply the art of falling out of the ego and into the center. It is the art of being the mustard seed. Wait with me for the final flowering. In the next part, we will discuss the marriage of heaven and earth, the final synthesis of the inner and the outer, and the ultimate meaning of I am the way, the truth, and the life. This marriage of heaven and earth is the ultimate destination of the seeker. For centuries, the religions of the world, and the Vatican is no exception, have told you that you must choose. They say if you want God, you must renounce the world. If you want the Spirit, you must deny the body. They have created a divorce in your very soul, and this divorce is the reason why your third eye remains closed. How can you have a single eye when your very philosophy is based on a double vision? Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. This is not an ego statement by a man called Jesus of Nazareth. This is the declaration of the bridge itself. He is saying that the way is the movement from the two to the one. The truth is the vision that happens when you reach the center. And the life is the abundance of energy that flows through you once the pineal gland is no longer blocked by the conflict of opposites. When you are only in the world, you are a body without a soul, a machine. When you try to be only in heaven, you are a soul without a body, a ghost. But Jesus is the Word made flesh. He is the marriage. He is saying that the earth is the tilled soil, and heaven is the mustard seed that grows within it. You don't leave the soil to find the tree. The tree grows out of the soil toward the sky. If you are beginning to feel this integration within yourself, the feeling that you don't have to live your life to find the divine, I invite you to click the join button. Our community is not a monastery where you hide from the world. It is a laboratory where you transform the world by transforming your vision. Your support through membership helps us keep this marriage alive for those who are still being forced into a divorce by tradition. And if this synthesis has brought a sense of wholeness to your day, a super thanks is a beautiful way to bless the work we are doing here. The Vatican has made the way into a doctrine. They have made the truth into a dogma. And they have made the life into a ritual. But the way is a movement, not a belief. The truth is an experience, not a creed. And life is a vibration, not a ceremony. To activate the pineal gland, you must stop being a believer and start being a liver, someone who lives with intensity. Jesus didn't give you a theology. He gave you a technique for being a bridge. Look at the cross again. The horizontal beam is the earth, your relationships, your work, your physical existence. The vertical beam is heaven, your meditation, your silence, your connection to the source. The point where they cross is the third eye. If you only have the vertical, you are a saint who is useless to the world. If you only have the horizontal, you are a sinner who is useless to himself. But at the crossing point, you are a Christ. If you are looking for the exact coordinates of this crossing point, our e-books are the navigational charts you need. They describe the balance between the inner and the outer, and how to use the energy of your daily life to feed the flame of the pineal gland. You can find the link in the description. They are for those who want to live fully and wake up totally. The single eye is the eye of the bridge. From that point, you see that the world is not an obstacle to God, but a manifestation of God. You see that cleave the wood and I am there. This is the activation to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. The Vatican wants to keep the extraordinary locked up in their tabernacles, but Jesus wants to release it into your kitchen, into your bedroom, into your marketplace. Please hit the like button if you are ready to bring the divine into your daily life. Share this video with those who are tired of being told that they are unworthy because they live in the world. And subscribe so we can continue to build this bridge together. In the comments, tell me, where in your ordinary life do you feel the flicker of the extraordinary? Jesus says, "No man cometh unto the Father but by me." Again, the Vatican thinks he is talking about his person, but he is talking about the state of being a bridge. You cannot reach the 1,000-petal lotus, the Father, unless you first go through the single eye, the sun. The third eye is the door. There is no other way. You cannot jump from the body to the absolute. You must go through the center of awareness. This center is the way. It is a dynamic process. It is the Sabbath in the middle of the storm. When you are centered at the pineal gland, you are the way. You don't follow a way, you are the way. Your very presence becomes a path for others. Your eyes become a light. But the money changers want you to keep following them. They want you to stay in the two eyes of confusion, so they can sell you directions. I am telling you, drop the maps and become the territory. Activate your own inner lighthouse. I see that the silence is deepening in you. You are beginning to realize that the marriage of heaven and earth is not something that will happen in the future. It is something that is happening right now in the very marrow of your bones. The Word is becoming flesh in you as you listen. As we conclude this part of our journey, I want to thank the bridges among you who support us through join and super thanks. You are the ones who understand that the real Vatican is any wall that tries to separate the soul from its source. By supporting this channel, you are helping to tear down those walls and build bridges of light. Keep your single eye on the point where the horizontal meets the vertical. Don't let the world pull you into the horizontal, and don't let the spiritualists pull you into the vertical. Stay at the center. Stay at the cross. The last technique is the art of being a bridge. It is the art of being a mustard seed that knows it belongs to the earth and the sky. Stay with the silence. In the next part, we will discuss the final prayer of Jesus, not as a petition to a distant God, but as the final dissolving of the observer into the observed, and the ultimate realization that I and my Father are one. Let us look at this final prayer of Jesus. In the Garden of Gethsemane, just before the end, he says, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. These are not the words of a man who is afraid of death. The Vatican has painted this moment as a moment of human weakness. But I tell you, it is the moment of supreme strength. It is the final dissolution of the I. To activate the pineal gland fully, you must reach this point where your own will, the ego's will, totally disappears. As long as you are saying, my will be done, you are living in the two eyes. You are trying to manipulate existence. You are trying to be the master of a reality you do not even understand. But when you can say, not my will, but thine, the boundary between the seeker and the sought vanishes. The energy that was used to maintain the ego identity is released and floods the third eye. This is the ultimate surrender. It is not the surrender of a slave to a master. It is the surrender of a drop to the ocean. When the drop surrenders, it becomes the ocean. This is the secret of I and my Father are one. The Father is the ocean of consciousness, the Word that was in the beginning. The I is the drop. As long as the I exists, the activation is incomplete. The pineal gland is the last checkpoint. Once the energy passes through it with total surrender, you are no longer there. Only the word remains. If you are feeling this pull to let go, to stop fighting with existence and start flowing with it, I invite you to click the join button. This is our circle of surrender. By becoming a member, you are surrounding yourself with the energy of those who are also learning to say, Thy will be done. Your support helps us keep this space open for the final death of the ego. And if this particular realization is bringing a sense of relief to your soul, a super thanks is a beautiful way to circulate that energy of let go. The Vatican has made God into a someone you talk to. They have made prayer into a petition. But for Jesus, prayer was a nothingness. It was the silence of the heart. When he says, Father, he is not talking to a person in the sky. He is talking to the very source of his own life. He is talking to the vine. When the observer you and the observed the divine become one, The single eye is no longer an eye, it is a mirror. It reflects nothing because it has become everything. This is the state of isness. This is the activation of the pineal gland reaching its boiling point. At 100 degrees, the water disappears and becomes the sky. At the point of total surrender, the seeker disappears and becomes the truth. If you are ready to disappear into the truth, our e-books are the guidebooks for the vanishing act. They describe the subtle stages of surrender, the way to navigate the fear of the ego as it reaches the edge of the abyss. You can find them in the description below. They are for the mustard seeds who are ready to let the cell crack. The Vatican kept this oneness from you, because a man who is one with God is dangerous to the church. If you are one with the Father, you don't need a mediator. You don't need a ritual to get to God, because there is no distance to travel. The pineal gland is the bridge that tells you the bridge is no longer needed. This is the last technique. To be so intensely aware that the awarer is consumed in the fire of awareness. Jesus on the cross was the perfect example of this. He wasn't just a man being killed. He was a consciousness being liberated. His final words, "Into thy hands I commend my spirit," are the final activation codes. He is handing back the talent he was given, now multiplied 1,000-fold. Please hit the like button if you are ready to commend your spirit to the truth. Share this video with those who are tired of the begging prayers and are looking for the silent prayer of Jesus. And subscribe so we can continue to walk this path of disappearance together. In the comments, tell me, what is the hardest thing for you to surrender to existence? Is it your control? Is it your future? Jesus says, "He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it." This is the ultimate alchemy, to find the life abundant, the fully activated, multi-dimensional consciousness. You must be willing to lose the small life of the ego. The pineal gland is the doorway to this larger life, but the door is narrow. It is so narrow that two cannot pass through it, only one. You and God cannot both go through. You must leave yourself behind. I see that the weight of these words is making you very still. This is not the stillness of death. It is the stillness of a pregnant silence. It is the word waiting to be born in your flesh. The activation is happening. The energy is rising. Don't be afraid. The Father is not an enemy. The Father is your own highest possibility. As we conclude this part of our journey, I want to thank the nothingnesses who support this channel through join and super thanks. You are the ones who understand that the real treasure is not what you can get, but what you can give up. Your support allows us to keep this narrow gate open for all who are tired of the wide road of the world. Keep your attention at the third eye. Feel the vibration. It is the word. It is the music. It is the life. Don't let the Vatican of your mind talk you out of your own divinity. You and the Father are one. You have always been one. The single I is just the realization of this eternal fact. The last technique is the final breath of the ego. It is the silence that follows the star. And in that silence, a total transformation of the universe happens. You look at the same trees, the same sun, and the same faces, but they are no longer the same. Jesus says, "Behold, I make all things new." This is the beauty of the single eye. When your vision is no longer divided by the past, by your prejudices, or by the dead weight of your Vatican imposed guilt, the world is born again for you every single moment. You are no longer living in a used, second-hand world. You are living in a world that is fresh, dripping with the dew of the eternal. This newness is the true mark of an activated pineal gland. Usually, you see things through the two eyes of recognition. You see a rose and you say, "Oh, it's a rose." The moment you name it, you have killed it. You have put it into a category, a pigeonhole of the mind. You are not seeing this rose, you are seeing your memory of a rose. But with the single eye, the name falls away. The category falls away. You see the suchness, the tathata of the flower. You see it as if you are seeing it for the first time in the history of the universe. And in that seeing, you are also new. If you are beginning to feel this freshness in your own life, I invite you to click the join button. This community is a space for those who are tired of the old dusty world of the mind and are ready to step into the newness of the Spirit. By becoming a member, you help us clear the cobwebs of tradition for seekers all over the world. And if this moment of beholding has touched you deeply, a super thanks is a beautiful way to share that bloom of gratitude. The Vatican has spent 2000 years trying to keep things old. They love the old, the ancient, the unchanging dogma. They want you to live in a museum. But Jesus is a man of the now. He is a man of the resurrection. And resurrection means the old has died and the new has come. This is the eternal return, not the return of the same old boredom, but the return of the same eternal life into new forms, new expressions, new moments. When your third eye is open, you become a child again. Not a childish person, but a childlike one. You have the wisdom of the ages and the innocence of a newborn. This is the ultimate synthesis. The Vatican wants you to be serious, but Jesus wants you to be joyous. They want you to be a soldier of Christ, but Jesus wants you to be a dance of Christ. A fully activated human being is a festive being. His life is a celebration, a continuous marriage at Cana, where the water of the mundane is constantly being turned into the wine of the divine. If you are ready to turn your own water into wine, our ebooks are the recipes for this inner alchemy. They provide the specific understandings to help you stay in the state of newness, even when the world around you is trying to pull you back into the old. You can find the link in the description. They are the nourishment for the resurrected soul. The last technique is simply the art of not naming. When you sit in meditation, watch the world without the names. Watch your thoughts without the labels. As the names disappear, the duality of the two eyes begins to dissolve. The energy that was used to sustain the dictionary in your head moves to the third eye. Suddenly, the word that was in the beginning is heard again. It is a wordless word. It is a vibration. It is the music of existence. Please hit the like button if you are ready to hear the wordless word. Share this video with those who are suffocating in the still air of tradition, and subscribe to stay with us as we celebrate this second coming that is happening right now within you. In the comments, tell me, what is the one thing in your life that you are seeing with new eyes today? The Vatican has made Jesus into a king, but he was a rebel. A king wants to preserve the kingdom, but a rebel wants to expand the consciousness. By activating your pineal gland, you are joining the rebellion. You are saying no to the dead past and yes to the living present. You are claiming your right to be a light unto yourself. Behold, I make all things new. This includes your body, your heart, and your mind. They all become instruments of the Spirit. Your body is no longer a prison, but a temple. Your heart is no longer a source of conflict, but a fountain of love. Your mind is no longer a master, but a beautiful servant. This is the state of the elect. The elect are simply those who have elected to wake up. I see that many of you are now vibrating on a different frequency. You are no longer the same people who started watching this video. The mustard seed has been planted, the soil has been tilled, and the single eye has been glimpsed. This is the beginning of your real life. Everything before this was just a preparation, a long sleep in the tomb. As we conclude this final part of our journey, I want to express my deepest love and gratitude to all of you who have supported this work through Join and Super Thanks. You are the living stones of the new temple, a temple not made of hands, not built in Rome or Jerusalem, but built in the hearts of awakened human beings. Your support allows these last fires to continue burning across the digital landscape. Keep your single eye open. Don't let the money changers of the world or the priests of the mind steal your light again. You have found the pearl of great price. Hold on to it with your silence. Nourish it with your awareness. And remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not a destination. It is the very eyes through which you see. Be a Christ. Don't be a Christian. Be a word made flesh. Be a light. Go into the world, but don't let the world go into you. Stay on the vine. Abide in the word, and let your whole body be full of light. I will be with you in the silence. Goodbye for now, but not forever. For those who are in the world, there is no parting. We are all one in the single eye. Subscribe, share, and stay awake. The morning has come.